If you're currently redoing your living room, or you just finished one and it still feels a little flat, this video is going to save you a real amount of money, depending on whether you watch all the way through. I've staged and styled over 300 living rooms, and the same handful of upgrades show up again and again. The ones that make a $200 weekend project look like a $10,000 renovation. One of these costs absolutely nothing, takes about 10 minutes, and almost nobody does it. It's the one change I've watched turn an okay room into the room everyone asks about. Here are the 10 genius living room upgrades that look expensive, but cost you under $100. We're counting down from 10 to 1. The further down we go, the bigger the transformation gets. You'll want to stay for number 1. Number 10. New switch plates and outlet covers. I get why nobody thinks about this one. Switch plates and outlet covers come standard with every house. Builder-grade plastic, slightly off-white, completely invisible until you actually look for them. They blend in, so nobody budgets for them. But here's the thing about builder-grade plastic covers. Next to anything you've upgraded, new paint, new trim, new lighting, they suddenly look cheap by comparison. It's the detail that quietly tells your brain, this room wasn't finished properly, even when you can't say why. I worked on a living room refresh where the homeowner had spent close to $4,000 on furniture and paint, and the room still photographed flat. The fix wasn't another piece of furniture. It was $11 worth of outlet covers. We swapped 12 plastic covers for matte black metal ones, and the homeowner texted me the next morning asking what else we'd changed. Nothing else had changed. Here's what to do instead. Buy matte black or brushed brass metal switch plates, not plastic, metal, for about $3 to $5 each. A typical living room needs 6 to 10 covers, so the whole upgrade runs $20 to $50. It takes one screwdriver and 15 minutes, and it's one of the only upgrades on this list with zero risk of getting it wrong. But the next one works the same way, except it's the one upgrade that actually changes how a room sounds when guests walk in, because they reach for it constantly. Number 9. Cabinet and door hardware. This one gets skipped for a different reason. People assume new hardware means new cabinets or new doors. Here's what nobody tells you. The hardware and the furniture it's attached to are not the same purchase. The real problem is that builder-grade hardware, the brushed nickel knobs that came with the house, the hollow brass handles on a media console, reads as rental the second you put anything higher end next to it. It's a finish mismatch, and finish mismatches are one of the fastest ways a room looks unfinished, even when every individual piece is nice. I worked on a conseil table that the homeowner almost replaced entirely, a perfectly good $600 console, because it looked cheap next to a new sofa. It wasn't the console. It was 4 nickel knobs from 2009. We swapped them for $9 brass pulls. Total cost, $36. And the console stayed exactly where it was. Here's the fix. Replace cabinet knobs, drawer pulls, and even door levers with one consistent finish, matte black, brushed brass, or aged bronze, for $6 to $12 per piece. A solid zinc or solid brass pull, not hollow plastic core, will run about $8 to $15 each and won't discolor or loosen within a year the way the cheap ones do. I'll link some options in the description. What comes next looks completely fine when it goes in. That's exactly what makes it expensive to fix later. Number 8. The bulbs you're currently using. Nobody thinks about light bulbs as a design decision. I understand why. A bulb is a bulb. It goes in, it turns on, job done. Most people buy whatever's cheapest at the hardware store and never think about it again. But the real problem is color temperature. Most stock bulbs run at 4,000 K to 5,000 K, a cool, slightly blue-white light that's great for a hospital hallway and terrible for a living room. It flattens skin tones, makes wood furniture look gray instead of warm, and makes an otherwise well-designed room feel like a waiting area. It happens immediately, every time the lights go on, and most people never connect the feeling to the bulb. I had a client convinced her new $2,200 sofa was the wrong color. It looked muddy and grayish in person. The sofa was fine. Every bulb in the room was 5000K daylight white. We swapped 6 bulbs for warm dimmable ones, total cost $42, and she called the same sofa rich looking that same night. Here's the fix. Buy warm white bulbs at 2700K to 3000K. Dimmable for $5 to $9 each. Look for ones rated 90 plus CRI. That's the color accuracy rating. They cost a couple dollars more and make every other color in the room look intentional instead of off. I'll link the ones I use in the description. Number 7 is where we start getting into real money. Not in what you spend, but in what most people overspend on instead. We're getting into the ones that cost real money, meaning the expensive version really does run into the thousands, and the under $100 version gets you most of the way there. Number 7. Custom built-in shelving. I understand the appeal completely. Built-ins look architectural. They look like the house was designed around the room, not furnished after the fact. Every renovation show features them for a reason. But the real cost of custom built-ins is brutal. A contractor-built shelving wall typically runs $3,000 to $8,000, depending on size and finish, and it takes 2 to 4 weeks of work in your living room. Dust, noise, a contractor in your house for a month. I worked with a homeowner who got 3 quotes for built-ins around a fireplace: $4,200, $5,600, and $6,900. She didn't have it. Instead, we used floating wood ledge shelves mounted directly to the wall in a staggered arrangement, painted to match the trim so they read as part of the wall. Here's the fix. Floating shelves, 2 to 3 per side, $15 to $25 each, painted or stained to match your trim. Total cost, $60 to $90. It's not identical to a true built-in, but at normal viewing distance, in photos, and in everyday use, it reads as the same architectural feature for about 2% of the price. But the next one isn't about a feature at all. It's about something you're already doing wrong without realizing it. Number 6. Curtains hung at window frame height. This one isn't really a money mistake, it's a measurement mistake, and it's so common that most living rooms have it. People hang the curtain rod directly above the window frame because that's where the hardware belongs. It seems like the obvious place. The real problem is that hanging curtains at window height visually shortens your ceiling and chops the wall into segments. It happens the instant you walk in the room. Your eye stops at the rod instead of traveling up the wall. And most people never realize it's the curtains doing it. They just feel like the room feels low. I staged a living room with 9-foot ceilings that photographed like a 7-foot room every single time. Until we moved one thing. We took the existing $40 curtains the homeowner already owned and rehung the rod 6 inches from the ceiling instead of 4 inches above the window frame. Same curtains, same room. It photographed 2 feet taller. Here's the fix. Mount your curtain rod as close to the ceiling as your trim allows, ideally 4 to 6 inches down, and make sure the curtains pool slightly at the floor, not hover above it. If you need longer panels, floor-to-ceiling linen blend curtains run about $25 to $45 per panel. The hardware change costs nothing if you already own curtains, just 2 new screw holes. Number 1 on this list isn't a purchase at all. It's a decision most people skip before they even start buying things. Stay with me, because it's the one that changes everything else on this list. Number 5. Furniture pushed against the walls. I understand why everyone does this. It feels like the correct way to arrange a room. Push everything to the perimeter, keep the middle open for walking. It's how most of us grew up seeing furniture arranged. But the real problem is that pushing every piece against the wall makes a small or medium room feel like a waiting room, not a living room. There's no destination, no sense of a space designed for conversation. It happens regardless of room size. I've seen it in 400 square foot apartments and 700 square foot living rooms equally. I worked on a rental refresh where the sofa, both armchairs, and the TV stand are all flush against 4 different walls, leaving a dead zone of carpet in the center. We pulled the sofa 8 inches off the wall, angled both chairs slightly inward, and added a $30 rug under the whole arrangement to anchor it. Same furniture, same room, completely different feeling. The homeowner said it finally looked like a room someone designed instead of a room someone moved into. Here's the fix. Pull your sofa at least 4 to 6 inches off the wall. Angle seating slightly toward a central point, a coffee table, a rug, each other, and use a rug to define that center zone. Total cost, if you need a rug, $30 to $80 for a reasonable sized one. If you already own one, this costs nothing but 20 minutes of moving furniture. But what comes next is where most people spend the most money, trying to fix a problem that paint solves for under $100. Number 4, painting trim and ceiling a different color than the walls. Almost every living room I walk into has the same setup. Colored walls, stark white trim, stark white ceiling. It's the default, and it seems safe. Trim is supposed to be white. That's just how rooms are painted. The real problem is that high contrast white trim against colored walls chops a room into visual sections. Wall, then trim, then ceiling. And on smaller or lower ceilinged rooms, it actually makes the room feel boxier and smaller, not bigger, which is the opposite of what people assume bright white trim does. I worked on a living room where the owner wanted a bigger, calmer feel and was quoted $1,800 for a partial reno to remove a section of trim entirely. Instead, we painted the walls, trim, and ceiling the same soft, muted tone, a technique sometimes called color drenching. No trim removed, total cost, paint and supplies, $85. The room read noticeably larger in every photo we took afterward because the eye stopped seeing separate sections and started seeing one continuous shape. Here's the fix. Pick one soft mid-tone color, not stark white, not anything too dark, and paint walls, trim, and ceiling all the same shade. A gallon of quality paint runs $45 to $65, and a typical living room needs 1 to 2 gallons. So the full project lands at $45 to $100 depending on size. Number 3 is the one that gets the most, "Wait, that's it?" reaction from clients because it costs almost nothing and most people own one already. Number 1 will surprise you. It works perfectly. Every time. It just works against you in a way almost no homeowner sees coming until it's pointed out. Number 3. 5 small pieces of art instead of 1 large piece. I get the instinct completely. A gallery wall feels like more for your money. 5 $20 prints feels safer than 1 $90 piece, and it fills more wall space for less per item. But here's the real problem. Small, scattered pieces on a large wall almost always read as cluttered rather than curated, unless they're arranged with real precision, which most people, understandably, don't have the time or eye to do. The wall ends up looking unfinished, even though it's technically full. I worked on a living room with a 9-foot wide blank wall above the sofa, filled with 6 mismatched small frames the homeowner had collected over the years. Individually, every piece was fine. Together, the wall looked chaotic. We removed 5 of the 6, kept the best one, and replaced the gap with 1 oversized print, 36 by 48 inches, bought as a poster and framed simply. Total cost, $65. The wall finally had a single point the eye could land on. Here's the fix. 1 large-scale piece, at least 2/3 the width of your sofa, almost always beats a cluster of small ones for the same money. Oversized art prints, unframed, run $30 to $50. A simple black or wood frame adds another $20 to $40. Total cost stays under $100, and it solves the blank wall problem completely, permanently, with 0 arranging required. What's coming next ties every single one of these together, and it's the one nobody on this list actually has to pay for. Number 2, mismatched metal finishes throughout the room. This one is sneaky because every individual choice looks fine on its own. Nickel door hinges, brass picture frames, black light fixtures, chrome curtain rods, none of it looks wrong in isolation. That's exactly why it gets ignored. The real problem only shows up when you stand back and look at the room as a whole. 4 or 5 different metal tones scattered across one space reads as random, even though nothing in the room is actually broken or ugly. It's the difference between a room that looks decorated and one that looks designed. And most people can feel the difference without being able to name it. I worked on a living room with black light fixtures, brass cabinet hardware, chrome curtain rods, and nickel outlet covers. 4 different metals in one 10 by 12 room. Nothing we touched cost more than $15 a piece. We picked one finish, matte black, and replaced the curtain rod hardware and outlet covers to match what was already black. Total spend? $58. The room suddenly looked like one cohesive idea instead of 4 separate purchases. Here's the fix. Pick 1 or 2 metal finishes for the entire room, never more than 2, and slowly bring every fixture, handle, and rod into line with that choice. You don't have to do it all at once. Replace the cheapest, most visible mismatches first, and the room will start reading as intentional well before you've touched everything. And that brings us to number 1. The upgrade that doesn't cost a single dollar, takes about 10 minutes, and is the actual reason the rest of this list.
Number 1, editing. Removing things, not adding them. This is the one I opened with. It's not a product, it's not something you'll find linked in a description anywhere, and it's the one upgrade I've never once seen a homeowner do on their own before I pointed it out. Here's the validation. I understand why nobody does this. Buying something feels like progress. Removing something feels like undoing work you already did, or admitting a purchase was a mistake. So living rooms accumulate. A throw pillow here, a side table there, a second lamp just in case. And nothing ever leaves. But here's the real problem. Every object in a room is competing for attention, and a room with 20 decent decisions in it reads as more cluttered and cheaper looking than a room with 12 good ones. Editing, not buying, is what separates a room that looks decorated from one that looks designed by someone who knew when to stop. I worked on a living room with 4 lamps, 3 throw blankets draped over furniture, a side table holding nothing but a candle, and a media console covered in framed photos, books, and small decor. Nothing in that room was ugly. We removed the side table entirely, reduced 4 lamps to 2, cleared the media console down to roughly a third of what was on it, and folded 2 of the 3 blankets away into a closet. We added nothing. We spent $0. The homeowner's words were, "It suddenly looks like it cost more, not less." Here's the fix, and it's the simplest one on this entire list. Walk your living room and remove 20 to 30% of what's currently in it, starting with anything you can't remember buying or can't say why it's there. Then stop. Don't refill the space. That empty space is doing more work for how expensive the room looks than almost anything you could buy to fill it. If a few of these are already true of your living room, that's completely normal. Most rooms have at least 4 or 5 of them, mine included at various points. Almost everything on this list is fixable in an afternoon, and for less money than a single dinner out. The rooms that actually look expensive aren't the ones where the most money was spent. They're the ones where someone paid attention to the small, unglamorous details. The hardware, the bulb temperature, the trim color, what got left out, instead of just buying more to fill the space. Which of these 10 do you already have in your living room? And which one are you fixing first? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. If you want more of this kind of upgrade, the kind that actually changes how a room looks for under $100 instead of costing you thousands, subscribe. There's a lot more of this coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.